What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Sunday Night Recap. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. I'm joined by Tera Roberts. Tera, how was week 6? Did it treat you well?
I was riding high on the Emeka Egbuka train, and so that did not treat me well. But in general, I would say so-so. It's okay. These injuries are killing me, though. We'll talk about it.
I know. They're killing me too, but Steelers got to win. Longhorns got to win yesterday. My weekend's doing okay, and hopefully Deepak here is going to give us some good news about Emeka Egbuka. Deepak, no Texans today, so you kind of had a nice relaxing Sunday outside of reporting all these injuries.
Yeah, you're totally right. My emotions have been flat the whole way. It's been very calm. It's a kind of an interesting experience.
And of course, you can follow everybody on the Twitter. I'm at Bogman Sports. Tera is at It's Tera Time. And of course, everywhere for Deepak at SportMD Analysis. Let's dive into some of these injuries. Man, it is ugly in week 1 here, or week 6 here, excuse me. That is the wrong graphic. This is the correct graphic. I knew I was going to mess something up hosting this show. Puka is number 1 here. Deepak, tell us about Puka. This foot ankle, I think we're saying ankle now. How bad does this look? Do we have a good estimate? I did this thing again too here. What do you think about Puka?
Yeah, so McVay after the game reported that it was an ankle, which is different than what was originally reported a foot. If you look at the video, it looks like an inversion or a low ankle type mechanism, but it's not that severe. So the concern is, did he strain a tendon that goes around that area as well? And that could be the thing that's more so bothering him, because most low ankles would just get played through. Now, he played about 5 snaps. He didn't have any catches in the second half of this game when he came back. So he was out there more kind of as a decoy. We would suspect he's getting an MRI probably tomorrow. We'll know a little bit more after that, but we do anticipate some limited practice sessions coming. I would lean towards him playing based on the fact that he was able to come back in some capacity today, but these can swell up afterwards. And given that they have a week 8 bye, it wouldn't be totally surprising if he's back at week 9 instead. However, Puka does tend to be on the more durable and more aggressive side. So therefore, right now we would tentatively lean towards him coming back week 7, but get a backup ready.
Tera, what are your thoughts? Maybe down week 7, week 8, back for week 9. That is what we're hoping for right now. In the meantime, I guess it's Jordan Whittington. It's probably a combo of a bunch of guys in LA, huh?
Yeah, and perhaps some more. We saw a little bit more volume to the tight ends here. I don't know if we want to dive into that one really, because it's been unreliable. But yeah, we're probably just looking for more aggressive targeting towards Devontae Adams. I mean, Stafford loves him in the red zone. They haven't connected as much as you would think, but the targets have been there. They just need to get more in sync. And yeah, if you're turning to someone on waivers, definitely Jordan Whittington. Decent involvement there. Could get a little bit more improvement, maybe get a little bit rust off, because obviously he's stepping into a bigger role here, but Whittington would be the one that I would maybe lean into, but waiver wise, be very, very cautious and don't bid high.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not too long, but we'll see what's going on with him. Deepak, we have a bunch of other injuries here. Marvin Harrison Jr. went out with a concussion. Emeka went out late with a hamstring. Hopefully that's not too bad. Calvin Ridley also with a hamstring. And then Fred Warner looked real nasty. So any of these that are any of these going to keep our guys out long term here?
Yeah, so I mean, starting with Fred Warner, it looked pretty bad. He most likely broke a bone in the ankle, and they reported a dislocation as well. That typically needs surgery and keeps players out till the following season. He does have a good chance of returning for week 1 of next year. And defensive players do take a little bit of time to ramp up, but by the time they get back, usually don't see a huge dip. Now, if you look at Marvin Harrison, they're calling him a concussion, and he did hit his head on the turf, it looked like. And therefore, the average on that is right around the 7-day time point. So it's about 50-50 in terms of players coming back for the following week. Whenever they do come back, whether that's this coming week or the following, which is the most common case, they don't typically need to ramp up or see a dip in their production. So it's kind of a plug and play as soon as they're ready. And then looking at your 2 wide receivers there, Calvin Ridley and Emeka Egbuka, both hamstring strains, not highly concerning histories, which is promising. The average hamstring is about 2 to 3 weeks. The Calvin Ridley hitting age 30 is a little bit more concerning in terms of re-injury risk. And it does predict him being a little bit on the slower side compared to Egbuka, but we don't really yet have an indication of true severity on these. So again, we're looking at that average as all comers, and we'll just kind of have to see. The good thing is that when players come back from hamstring strains, they see a pretty quick ramp up back to their baseline production level and target level. They do carry some re-injury risk, and that mostly is kind of determined by the severity itself.
Man, interesting. Tera, what are your thoughts on these injuries? Like I said, Marvin Harrison and Emeka, Calvin Ridley are the main fantasy ones we're worrying about here.
Yeah, the Emeka one is the big one for me because on that one, we've already got Chris Godwin that was ruled out for this week. We've got Mike Evans. He didn't practice at all last week. So we kind of sit here and wonder, okay, are we heading into this next matchup? And we've got a receiving core of Sterling Shepard and two very young receivers who actually did outperform Sterling Shepard. But do we want to take that chance and go with the Cameron Johnson or Taz Johnson, or do we want to stick with what we know in terms of Sterling Shepard? I think the door is wide open because at the end of the day, it's Baker Mayfield. He's going to have volume out there. These Bucs are beat up, but there's still fantasy points to have here. So the Emeka one is really big there because we're now dipping into one of these lower end receivers here that are not starters are going to get put into a massively prominent role here. Marvin Harrison Jr., again, same thing. We've got Trey McBride there as a second look, so there's probably not going to be any major adjustments. Maybe Zay Jones is the one that popped up this week, is getting the most targets with Marvin Harrison Jr. out. And then Calvin Ridley, I mean, we turned to Eric Aymaner, but at the end of the day, we're still highly skeptical of this Titans offense here. So it's really the Emeka one that stands out big for opportunities for us.
Yeah, I like Cam Ward. I think he's going to turn around, but it has been rough in Tennessee so far. Deepak, I saw Njoku was in and out. I saw Gesicki went out with a pec. Trey Hendrickson went out with a back. I know there were more injuries. Any other ones that you are concerned about long term?
You know, looking kind of really more at the ones that we already knew about going into this week, I would say the kind of main ones on my radar are going to be your Bucky Irving, who is kind of a TBD for this coming week, but would suspect either this coming week or the following he comes back. You mentioned Mike Evans, similar kind of time frame expected for him. And then kind of monitoring the Brock Bowers situation. He has a week 8 bye, so we would lean towards him coming back week 9. So those are kind of the biggest ones on my radar. And then lastly, a little optimism on CeeDee Lamb potentially returning this coming week. So I want to leave you a little bit of a positive note on that one.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate the news from you as always, Deepak. And we know we can at least always count on you to show up for our teams and be here every single week. So let everybody know where you are, where they can find everything and what you're doing this week, please.
Yeah, no doubt. Search us up on Twitter, SportMD Analysis, or search Sports Meta Analytics on any of the other platforms. And every week here, we will continue to join you and hopefully not spread too much bad news.
Thank you so much, Deepak. We will see you next week. And Tera and I will be back to talk some storylines, some panic meter, and answer some questions. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, we're all passionate about fantasy football, obviously. But sometimes there is a little bit missing. What's missing? A team. But not your fantasy team. No, a team of like-minded, passionate fantasy football fans. And if that is not part of your everyday, Fantasy Pros Discord might be your answer. Chat with other fans, debate strategies, and find leagues to join. Every week, get your questions answered live in our AMA live Discord sessions. Want to know if you should start that sleeper or avoid a risky trade? Our experts, they're here to help. And if you got a question, you might even end up on a podcast. It's not just about advice, though. It's about community, with channels for every aspect of fantasy football, draft advice, waivers, props, to dynasty, best ball, and a ton more. You're going to find like-minded fans just like you. So join the best fantasy team. Join Fantasy Pros on Discord at fantasypros.com/chat today. Get your questions answered and connect with fans. Don't just play fantasy football, live it with Fantasy Pros on Discord.
And next up here, we're going to be talking about some storylines from week number 6. Tera, oh, look, I knew I was going to do this. Oh, I have us all messed up here.
You're better than me. I do this all the time in the Twitch streams in the morning.
There we go. There we go. I got us all straightened out now. It's my first. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Let's start out with some of these running backs, right? We had Vidal, take over for Haskins when we heard everything that all the breadcrumbs were Haskins was going to be the main guy, right? And we saw Vidal take 43 of 64 snaps. He ran 23 routes. Haskins took less than half of those snaps, 20 of 64. Vidal 18 for 124, also had a touchdown through the air. Haskins only had 7 touches for 23 yards. So looks like Vidal is going to be the guy there. And then Bam Knight takes over for the Cardinals. He had 37 snaps to 32 for Michael Carter. Michael Carter did run more routes and had more targets, so that's a little more 50-50, but Vidal looks like the man in LA right now.
Yeah, this was a fun morning here with the updates that were coming in. We got hit with what we thought. I mean, it was more than breadcrumbs. We were seeing, told by the experts there with the insiders that Hassan Haskins was going to be the starter here, and that was not the case there. It's definitely pretty solidified in terms of Vidal. I want to caution people because this feels oddly similar to what we had with the Cardinals last week, where we were thinking, now granted on that one, we knew it could go a wide variety of directions on that one, but we did have Michael Carter come out, perform well, and we thought, solidified, hey, this will be the RB1 for the extent of Amari and Hampton being out. Then we get that tweet in terms of saying that Bam Knight was going to be the starter out there. So please understand that could be the same thing that happens there with Vidal, particularly because we got information as well over the weekend that the Chargers are in the hunt for a running back. They're looking either for a depth piece or a lead back. So the option of them having either one of those and knowing that this injury for Amari and Hampton is not just the standard 4 and then you'll be back, it could extend past that. They're a competitive team. They might go in a different direction here. So yeah, we've got Vidal who stepped up and operated as the RB1 and had an excellent day. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is the guy who will be their starter next week or moving forward here. So that was a very interesting situation. And then on the other side there, we had the Cardinals. Bam Knight was factually the starter there, got the touchdown, but you're right, it was definitely more of a committee there. So that one we're a little bit more apprehensive on in terms of we don't know if they're rumored to be in the market there. We assume that Trey Benson will be out after his be back after his IR stint there. But at least that one, maybe we have 2 low-end usable assets. It's less confusing and we know exactly what we're getting. If you have to plug them in, okay, but we're not leaning on either one of them.
Yeah, this the Chargers one upset me because my initial thought was, well, I think Vidal is the better back, right?
Yeah.
So Haskins has a lot of special teams qualities as well. That's why he gets the helmet every week. But I thought Vidal was better back. But then everything we heard was Haskins.
Yeah.
So I spent my fab money on Haskins.
We gotta listen.
I only got Vidal in one spot. Let's move on to story number 2 that you pointed out here. And I love this one. Rico Dowdle goes off again. Are we going to have controversy at the running back spot? I don't think we will, but it's hard to deny this 2 enormous games for Rico Dowdle. But before this injury for Chuba, Rico Dowdle's highest snap percentage was 40 and his most touches was 11. Are we just going to go right back to that when Chuba comes back? Or do you think Rico has at least earned a higher share closer to 50% here?
Yeah, I was with you in terms of thinking like, hey, congratulations, you popped off when Chuba was out, but to see a backfield flip on somebody that, they last year mid-season, they gave Chuba that multi-year contract. Is that like, hey, we believe in you. We want you here with us. Now, of course, they signed Rico Dowdle, so contract there, but that was their lead back. So you would think like, hey, one game is not going to change everything. It wasn't as if Chuba was just out there getting destroyed and horrible and awful. Rico coming in and having an excellent matchup last week and thriving on that against Miami. Okay, that's expected. Now, again, they sit here in week 6 and we've got yet another good matchup here. So how does the team look at it? Do they look at this and see Rico is a guy that we can't bottle this up. He's on fire. We have to go here with the hot hand and lean on Rico, or maybe at the very least split the backfield? Or do they look at this and say, he went off, but these were arguably 2 of one of the easiest matchups on the ground that you can have in the NFL. So you going off, there's no telling. Chuba could have done the exact same thing. So here are we going to steal somebody's job for that? I don't know. At least we don't have to decide in terms of waiver wires because Dowdle is already rostered everywhere. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out when Chuba comes back, how much do we trust him in this lineup and where are these guys going to be ranked?
Yeah, I think I'm starting Chuba unless we hear from the team, right? Like when he comes back, I'm starting Chuba. Rico is like a bye week, a flex option until they show us that it is going to be different, right? Like, I think that's the way I'm going to approach it. But yeah, Rico looks really good right now. Like, Rico looks like what we thought Chuba was, this is how Chuba looked to us last year, was out of nowhere. And now Rico is doing it. So, just good coaching in Carolina. Our third topic here, our third storyline, the Dallas fantasy matchup has been unstoppable for opposing offenses here. Right now, they're averaging 30.7 points per game allowed, 411.6 yards per game allowed. That would have been barely better than a historically bad defense in Carolina last year in terms of points per game. They allowed 31.4, but they allowed fewer yards per game last year at 404.5. They were the only team to allow over 400 yards per game last year. So we have some good matchups coming up for Washington. Then Dallas is at Denver, and then they get Arizona at home before the bye. So, I mean, wheels up on your Commanders, Broncos, and Cardinals in the next couple of weeks here, right?
Yeah, this is the ideal fantasy situation. Is this what we want do Dallas fans want this? Probably not. Do we want this in the NFL? Probably not. But from a fantasy perspective, we're talking about a team whose offense is incredible in Dallas. Dak is absolutely putting up numbers. Unbelievable. Devontae looks good. I mean, just they're clicking on all cylinders. And deep at pass catcher there, right? And they don't even have CeeDee Lamb, and they're putting up these numbers here, which is absolutely insane, because they have to chase points because their defense is legitimately horrible. And it might have been a mistake trading away Micah Parsons, because this thing has fallen apart, although it was suffering before, but it has fallen apart and gone off the rails completely here. It is the most targetable matchup in the NFL right here. And I feel like Bryce Young was kind of like, that was my delineating factor of, okay, let's see how Bryce Young, because it's Bryce Young, right? Who I love, right?
Well, wasn't this the first game that Caleb Williams had never been sacked in, was against the Cowboys earlier this year?
Yeah. Which tells you, because their offensive line has been continued to be suspect this season. So yeah, it's rough. I mean, for what we got here, we got, Ted McMillan, who had no touchdowns on the season. We were suffering there, and he pops off with 2 here. It's just extremely, extremely targetable here. You're not just looking at the wide receiver 1s, you're looking at the wide receiver 2s and 3s, even as low-end streaming options. And it'll be very interesting next week with Washington, because obviously right now we don't know about Depot, but we hope that we can get Terry McLaurin back next week. And we'll be getting those questions in terms of, can we trust Terry McLaurin if he's, active? Well, can we trust him? I mean, against Dallas, you can trust everybody.
Yeah. Who else might be Dallas? The Niners, right?
Yeah.
You lose Nick Bosa for the year. That's the equivalent of trading away Micah, and your team leader and Fred Warner, they lost Overshown. And you just see how bad this defense has got, missing their 2 gigantic stars. I think the Niners will still be a little bit better. They have a little bit better in terms of replacements, but still not very good. Number 4, what do we do with the 49ers wide receivers when everyone's healthy, Tara? Because Kendrick Bourne is eating. He's eating like a fat kid right now. He is eating a lot. He is getting us points. Ricky Pearsall is going to come back. We're going to get Kittle back. Juwan Jennings is going to be back and fully healthy. What are we going to do with these Niners? Is Kendrick Bourne going to remain one of these guys because maybe this defensive situation gets bad for him and they have to play point for point with everybody?
It's interesting. I mean, with the 49ers, there's no mystery in terms of their offense, in terms of what we've seen over the years. It's been viable fantasy options for Kittle, Ayuk, and it was Debo, but, presumably now Ricky Pearsall now. So assume at some point we'll get Brandon Ayuk back, but plug in Juwan Jennings right now. And you might think, hey, we're going 3 deep there. We've got Christian McCaffrey, who is also catching just a ridiculous, a minimum of 8 targets. It was a down week for him, to be quite honest here, in terms of his targets and fantasy production. But you teased it right there with the defense. The defense, unfortunately, is just suffering way too many losses. The 49ers have been an incredibly efficient offense in the past, and they can't afford to do that anymore because their defense can't stop anyone. So they're chasing points here. They, heading into this week, had the most pass attempts of any team in the NFL. We saw 38 attempts from Mac Jones this week, 49 last week. They are gunning. They're going to have to. And realistically, you wonder, we've seen, Kendrick Bourne here with Juwan Jennings. is the tie to Juwan Jennings is the preferred option really there, especially if Mac Jones is the one at quarterback? That's the big question there. They have that connection. It's been a wonderful rapport, and Bourne looks incredible. And, in his defense, I think he was done a little bit wrong in New England. He was operating as a wide receiver one back then.
I think we can tell, like, you can see what Bill Belichick has at North Carolina right now as well, right? It is rough in the street. So not the best situation for Mac Jones to enter the NFL. A lot of these guys, and this is what first rounders do. They get second, third, fourth chances, right? Sam Darnold was on his 15 before he got his gigantic contract. So yeah, I mean, look, Steelers are going to be looking for a quarterback next year, right? Ain't going to be Mason Rudolph. Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. So maybe Mac is the guy there. We'll see. Plenty of teams going to be looking. Obviously, the Browns are still looking. Speaking of looking for a quarterback, Flacco was traded to Cincinnati middle of the week. Remember that? That seems like it was 2 years ago. And we got to see him today. And 29 of 45, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the big thing here, he made the weapons viable again. 12 targets, 10 for 94 and a touchdown for Chase. T. Higgins even was in, he left this game and came back. He had to go in a concussion protocol, I believe. 8 targets for him, 5 catches, 62 yards. Chase Brown didn't get there. He only had 11 touches and 49 yards, but you can see the offense opening up a little bit. And this was against one of the tougher defenses in the NFL in Green Bay. So are we going to start buying back in and buying, more than you had to last week? But we're still buying a little low on these Bengals assets. Is that something that you're going to, recommend that people go do now that Flacco's at the helm?
I've been pro buy low on the T. I was a little bit more hesitant because he is the second look there, but very pro buy low on Jamar Chase there. If somebody wants to get out of it for cheap, you can still potentially get into it there. With Joe Flacco there at quarterback, we did see the boost here. I was surprised. I'm not going to lie here. I thought we might see him struggle a little bit because going into this situation, we know that Cincinnati's offensive line is a major problem there. But the team overall looked a lot better. We didn't get the checkdowns that I thought we were going to get to Chase Brown there. So we didn't get the uptick in performance. But oddly enough, this was his most effective. While it wasn't super high yardage, it was his most effective performance on the ground there. So the tight ends were more effective here. So yeah, he's brought more stability to this offense, even if it's not going to be extremely high yardage for him. He's getting the targets there to the receivers in an effective manner, pushing the ball forward here. So yeah, it's a bit of an improvement. I'm a Packers fan. I am mildly skeptical of the up and down nature of this defense here. So I do caution that things might look a little bit different for Joe Flacco against Pittsburgh next week, who's been a little bit more havoc wreaking in terms of turnovers there.
I hope so. Obviously, I'm a Steelers fan, so hopefully, we've lost to Joe Flacco 8 million times in my life, so I'm tired of seeing this dude. And now we're the only team that he hasn't played for in the North. So
we got to get it next year. I'm hoping. I want them
to make it one more year, Joe.
Yeah.
Make it one more year. But appreciate it, Tera. That was headlines. Now, after I tell you all about our presenting sponsor, we're going to do some panic meters. So in the comments, if y'all want to throw out who are you 10 out of 10 panicking on right now, and Tera and I will discuss them. But before we do, I remind you guys that today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. Week 6 wraps up with a Monday night doubleheader, Buffalo versus Atlanta, Chicago against Washington. Let's take a look at this streak from Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub on the app. Bijan Robinson is Fantasy Pro's second highest ranked running back this week because he is almost automatic at scoring touchdowns at home. Bijan has reached pay dirt in 5 consecutive home games. That stat is courtesy of the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub. If you think he hits pay dirt tomorrow, you can lock in his anytime touchdown right there on the app. If you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets as well. Plus, every day during week 6, you get a profit boost for a parlay on Hard Rock Bet. If you've already missed Thursday or you haven't used Sunday or Mondays, don't miss out. Boost your parlay so it pays extra winnings. There's new promos every single day. So if you're listening to this later, just open the app, check it out. Check out what you've got any day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit today. All righty, Tera, let's take a look at the panic meter. It's the panic meter. It's time to freak out about some players here. Who are we freaking out about, chat? Let's see. How about Seattle backfield? Walker and Sharp. They're driving me insane this season. That is from Kayla. What do you think about the Seattle backfield, Tera?
Yeah, I call it has been an insane backfield to roster because Charbonnet has been getting the touchdowns, but it's not really producing anything from a fantasy perspective because he's not getting extreme yardage on the ground or a lot of targets as well. So he'll get a touchdown and then you to 10, 11, 12 fantasy points, and that's about it. That's the ceiling there. And the floor, we saw it this week, unfortunately. Kenneth Walker obviously does have a higher ceiling there. Touchdowns not flowing as friendly for him. At the end of the day, Walker is the RB1 in this offense. Jacksonville's defense has pulled it together well. They're well coached. They had a lot of pieces there. They made some good moves in the offseason. So not panicking too bad over this. It is still a fairly decent matchup in terms of being able to stop the run here. So we're not panicking too much here, but unfortunately, yeah, we've got if I had to rate it here, it's about a 6. It's above average. We're frustrated because it's a committee that should not be a committee. It's got to be one or the other here. They're frustrating us with that very much so.
I think we just have to look at these guys as flex guys, right? Like you can play them at wide receiver RB2 during bye weeks and stuff like that. But if everybody's healthy, everybody's up on your team, hopefully these guys are flex options for you because right now with the split usage, you're hoping for that touchdown. That's really what it is. Joe says here, panic meter, the Jets. We could just call it like Jets and panic could be, equal words here, but obviously Fields had a miserable day today, but this is overseas. It's against the Broncos defense. Like it's the toughest matchup you can imagine for an NFL starter on a week-to-week basis almost, but it hasn't looked good outside of that either. So Brees looks bad. We talk about trade rumors for Brees. I think that's wish casting. That definitely is for me. I'll try to put him on the Bears about 1 million times, try to put him in Houston 1 million times. I'd love to see him anywhere else. Garrett Wilson too, but they're not going to trade him. He's not going anywhere. So I guess what is your panic level on just the Jets?
Yeah, I think the offense is what it is. I don't think the Jets feel bad about their team because it's messy, but some of that mess is not just like a defunct team. A lot of it is weird, messy behavior, lots of penalties, drops, just general confusion. The defense did at least pull itself together, and they have been dealing with health issues. And hopefully they get Quincy Williams back next week. That would be wonderful. I play in one IDP league. I personally need that. But when we're looking at their offense there, I do caution you not to pay. The only panic we have on Justin Fields, if we got the inkling that they would be moving on from him and sitting him and starting Tyrod Taylor, which at this point, I don't know if that's really a reality there.
I didn't think so, but I would say it was like a 3 last week. It's a 4 this week now.
Yeah, it's
I still think it's not likely, but it's getting more and more likely with these performances.
And from a fantasy perspective, like last week, I mean, the fantasy points have been there. The problem is that when they're not there at all. So it's a very high ceiling, low floor situation. He's a boom bust player. But it is matchup predictable there. At least we do have that. And we've got a couple of good matchups coming up with decently and get the Carolina and then Cincinnati after that. Poor Breece Hall can't get the touchdown. It's not him. It's just the offense.
Look, this one, we have to talk about this guy. And this is honestly, it's the second guy I put on the sheet after Trey Henderson, or after Justin Fields. It is Trey Henderson. I mean, everyone is panicking on Trey Henderson right now. And I think this is legit. And this is partly my fault. I was big on Trey Henderson. So was Fitzy coming out. He's just so successful at Ohio State, and this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, specifically because Ramondre Stevenson has been a fumbling machine, and they just keep going back to him. So it's infuriating. I understand, but I think in all the leagues that I have Trey Henderson, which I only think is 2, because he was going so high at the end, I'm still not dropping him for many people on the wire. So he's just been sitting on my bench waiting for a breakout right now, and I understand that's getting frustrating for everyone. Tera, what are you doing with Trey Henderson right now?
Yeah, he can't start him right now, unfortunately. And this was a good barometer for us. Now, I will say the Saints defense has pulled itself together well, but we finally got at least it pushed down to a 2-man committee. So you'd think we would see more of a clear direction here in terms of the volume being pushed into 2 people. And unfortunately, the volume just did not produce literally anything, unfortunately. And the problem with that is that again, you're right. Like I trust so much the talent that is Travion Henderson. I don't trust Josh McDaniels, and I never will. It's just not happening there. He is committed to the committee, and I don't think it's going to turn around here. So of all my panic meters, this one is probably the highest because I don't know if there's a redeemable path other than Ramondre Stevenson getting injured there. So this one's it's a high 9 there, unfortunately.
I think you're right. The one that here's the thing that's going to be annoying is that when he finally does step up, it's going to be like week 13, right? And you're going to have rostered him the whole year, and then he's going to break out. So, if you're in a dynasty league, go trade for him now. That's what I would say. Like buy him while he's so low at this point, if you even possibly can. I would try to do something like that. I don't think in a redraft, unless your benches are really deep, he's even an asset you want to go after because it might not happen at all this year. I think it's still going to happen. I think he's still a way better running back than Trey Henderson, but based on what? I can't sit here and tell you that with logic because I've been trying to for 6 weeks and it has not worked. So hopefully we're going to turn around. Here's another one from Corey. Geno and Jacoby Myers are killing me. I understand, like Geno, get rid of Geno. We don't need Geno anymore. Hopefully, there's other quarterbacks that have. Hopefully, it's not a super flex league. I would assume it is if you're starting him. But Jacoby Myers has been under 50 yards for 3 straight weeks. So this is a guy that we kind of were counting on as at least a wide receiver 3, maybe a flex option. And he's really let us down for 50% of the season now. So is this a guy you're cutting? Are you waiting for him to come back up? Is there just really no one you're super interested in picking up and dropping him for?
So, yeah, the problem is that Geno has nuked his value, and it's clear that his, they just don't mesh together in terms of what Geno does and what he is best at. And then the best is not really even coming through anyway here. It's leaning aggressively towards Trey Tucker, even if the target share isn't tilting that much. The fantasy upside is simply with Trey Tucker at this point. So do I want to roster Jacoby Myers? He's Jacoby Myers, and we know that he has the talent to, if given the opportunity there, put up good numbers and be a valuable wide receiver 2, solid flex option here. But at this point, you can't put him in your lineups. There is no ceiling, and we've had the floor for literally like 4 weeks in a row. The floor is 7 points. The ceiling is 7 points. It is what it is on that one, unfortunately. It's that one, that panic meter is at a 7, unfortunately.
Yeah. Would you rather roster Jerry Jeudy or Jacoby Myers right now, who drops everything?
I would. Neither is an answer. I have to say. You
got to pick one.
I got to pick one. Then I'm gonna pick. Let me see if I can stall to bring up strength of schedule here.
Still Myers for me. I don't trust anything Jeudy does, but Jeudy is a number 1. What if I throw in Aya Minor?
Oh, yeah, I can't. Even with the injury to Ridley, I can't see Cam Ward, unfortunately, just. I lean towards still rostering. No, you know what? I can. Do I believe that Geno can turn things around? And if he turns things around, I think it's still going to heavily favor Trey Tucker and Javonte Williams and Brock Bowers once he comes back. I think Jacoby is just the odd man out in terms of what he does specifically. So yeah, I would take that lean on Jacoby on Jerry Jeudy for the chance that maybe Dylan Gabriel can develop and over the next few weeks here, and their schedule does have some friendlier matchups coming up. So I think I would give the edge to Jerry Jeudy there slightly.
Is there anybody else you're panicking on? A lot of the same names. There's a couple tight ends people talking about Njoku, panicking on him a little bit. There's just so many tight ends out on the wire. I don't worry too much about tight ends. Are there any tight ends? The injured guys, obviously. Yeah. Bowers hurt, Kittle's out. But outside of the injuries, I don't think I'm panicking too much on tight ends, just because there's always like an AJ Barner or somebody on the wire.
Yeah, there's a lot of streaming options. But the problem is the streaming options, they're so deep, but on a week-to-week basis, a lot of these tight ends are tied to weird quarterback situations. So it's like Mason Taylor popped up, and it's like, okay, he's the second look in the offense, but unfortunately, tied to Justin Fields. Theo Johnson, great. Good quarterback situation, but again, with just, lack of trust there in terms of targets and volume to him. So we have streaming options. It's just predicting how they will be on a weekly basis there.
All right. We are going to answer some of your questions from the chat now. So go ahead and drop them in. But before we dive in to the questions, I got to tell you guys about the Fantasy Pros Discord. You can join our Discord community, chat with other fans, to get access to exclusive AMAs that wind up on our podcast feed. Here is the schedule. It is Seth and Fitz at 5 Eastern on the first Tuesday of every month. Myself and Fitz at 5 Eastern for the third Tuesday of every month. Welsh and Erickson Thursdays at 2 Eastern. You can come and get your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. All right, everybody, drop your questions in the chat. We're going to start going through them right now, and Tara's going to give you all the correct answers. So am I. We will give you no wrong answers ever, and if we do, it's because somebody else messed up, not us, obviously, every single time. All right, so first question is, let's see, is Ladd back, or are we trying to sell high? That's a great question.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's back and trustworthy. If you have needs at other positions like tight ends, I think you can sell high on him. Quentin Johnston's injury was a hamstring. It seemed like he was limited and maybe close, but we talked with Deepak, there was a multi-week injuries there. So maybe that one might be one that lingers there. So Ladd they're throwing a lot there. The offense looks competent, even though the offensive line is very suspect there and dealing with injuries here. So I don't think you have to sell him. I think he's back, but you can if you want to.
It's a great question, Philip. I'm with you, Tara. I don't think I'm selling him either. I think obviously with Hampton going down, they're going to throw the ball more, right? And we have it's QJ and then old man Keenan Allen, right? So those are the guys. I 5 weeks of great production from QJ, but then he missed this week. So I think I'm just not selling him. I'm not selling Ladd quite yet because you're not getting enough. I'd wait at least for him to have another big week before I move him, but that's the danger. Here's another trade question. I love this one. Thank you, Philip. This one's from Coco. Should I keep Scatterboo or trade him for Brees? That is good. So answer this specific one first, and then we could talk about potentially trading Cam.
I would keep Scatterboo here. While I love Brees, again, touchdown opportunities are definitely just leaning towards Scatterboo.
I love that. There's no one more obnoxiously loud about Scatterboo than I was in the offseason. So I'm haven't quite taken the victory lap, but I also think that maybe this is the time that you want to trade Scatterboo. Not that I would necessarily do it, but I think you would at least float him, right? After a 3-touchdown performance, the Giants just beat the Eagles. They look great, but I think overall, and I said this last week too, or 2 weeks ago, last time I was on the show, I think losing Neighbors just really hurts that offense overall.
Yeah.
Maybe Jackson Dart is so much better than what they had at quarterback last year that they can be viable and beat teams and score some touchdowns here. But I don't mind at least floating him to see what I would get for him. I'm definitely there on that. Trade proposal, Quentin Johnston for Rashee Rice from Derek M. Who do you want in that deal?
Oh, yeah, I want Rashee Rice on that one. Worthy has been cool, but we are waiting for the true upside to be unlocked. Patrick Mahomes is on fire here. I think Rashee will be a very welcome return there for them. So, yeah, I'm okay with that, especially since we were just talking about Ladd and his upside here as well.
I think so, too. I think it's a fair deal, though, right?
Yeah.
You would have been laughed out of the room if you asked about this before the season, but QJ, now that he can catch the ball, has looked outstanding. Let's see. Kayla has one. How high would you jump for Henry? Pollard, Shaw, Worthy, Jordan Mason. Who would you trade for Derrick Henry?
All of those, except for maybe Worthy there. That one's kind of on the fence there. But if you're in need of a wide receiver with all of these injuries here, but I'm very pro Derrick Henry. A lot of people don't feel that way rest of season for him. The thing is that the Ravens got a bum deal with their start to the season. Their defense has been bad as well. After the bye week, they get Lamar Jackson back. We know that. They have said, hey, Lamar's coming back after the bye week. So we know that it's going to be competent now, more competent than it was here with Cooper Rush. And the schedule does ease up. It lightens up here. Derrick Henry is not a problem. It's not as if when you look at him, you say he's cooked. It's just a bad situation where we know for a fact that if they're playing from behind, it unfortunately eliminates him as an option there. So I'm pro Derrick Henry. I like him rest of season, and you can get him very low right now. So he's a fine buy low for me for literally any of those guys.
All right. Well, look, the Sunday night game is kicking off. So I think that is going to be it for us today, but appreciate everyone for joining the stream and hanging out and asking the questions. And we will be back next week. Remind everybody where they can find you, Tera, before I leave you hanging there.
You can find me at It's Tera Time, literally everywhere, Twitter, YouTube, all those socials. And of course, make sure that you are following all the Fantasy Pros socials, because I do lives on Instagram and Twitter throughout the week. We do lives on Twitch as well. So yeah, just make sure you're following everywhere so you can catch the live shows and everything.
That's it. At Bogman Sports for me. I'll be here tomorrow on Out of Bounds with Joe and Welsh. So check that out on the Twitch, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody. Stupid Joe Flacco making the Bengals look good.
I still think it might be the Packers defense.
Little column A, little column B.
I'm a highly skeptical fan. I'm a realistic fan there.